Hi guys. So I'm going to start by asking you to bear with me and my technical limitations because I wanted to begin this reel by showing you a picture of one of my most precious possessions. This is actually the banner, or I don't know what you would call it, that was given to me after Fragments of River Song was in fact launched at the Oxford bookstore in Kolkata. And the lovely folks at the Oxford bookstore said to me that this was going to be like a souvenir for me. And I must say it's very precious, both for the memories of the actual event and the fact that I have this lovely reminder in my bedroom. But I do also wonder if I am secretly psyching myself out of bringing out the second collection by keeping Fragments of River Song so prominently displayed here, but I hope that's not the case. I've got a rough manuscript for that collection, and some of the stories, as you know, have already been coming out in books like When the Mango Tree Blossomed, The Best Asian Short Stories 2020, and Closer to Home, and in Singapore, and then Closer to Home, All Our Longings in India, and another recent anthology, Golden, Bangladesh, celebrating 50 years. So this is where I'm basically trying to place the stories and psych myself up to finalizing the manuscript so that I can actually publish the new book. And I have immense guilt over it, but life is just not allowing much leeway at the moment. So one of the reasons I'm doing this reel now is because I asked a question to some of you who saw that story about a question that I am often asked, which is how did I come up with the title for Fragments of River Song, and what does the picture mean, if anything. So the answer is, as some of you already know, the picture very much means something, and the title also means quite a lot to me. And at the end of this reel, I'm going to add two small pieces of information that I hope you'll find useful, particularly those of you who do not like loaning out your books to anyone. Okay, so Fragments of River Song. The title actually came to me because I was thinking very hard about the fact how much things have changed in Bangladesh in the last 50 years. And how the original storytellers of this land were people like the Bauls or the Majhis, who used to sing the Bhatialis, and a lot of the folk stories, Rubban and so on, which are told in the form of folk tales or folk songs. And that gave me the idea of river song, basically the songs on the river, and also my realization that today's Bangladeshi stories are more likely to be told by some desperate author in some dark corner of their room, frantically bent over a keyboard. It's a very far cry from Paltola Noka and Majhir Gan, sadly. But, it is what it is. So hopefully this generation of writers will be able to bring the stories of Bangladesh to a wider audience. And I wish all of you luck in doing so. So that's the river song part. The fragments came because I was basically visualizing Bangladesh as a kind of giant, very colorful, very vibrant mosaic, both the good and the bad of the country, the sadnesses, the challenges we face, but also the triumph of the human spirit, often over insuperable odds. So for me, Bangladesh is that mosaic. And I thought of the 12 stories in Fragments of River Song, 6 of which are short stories and 6 of which are really flash fiction, longish flash fiction, as being fragments from that wider mosaic. It's just 12 stories. We have millions and millions and millions of stories, almost all of which I think bear telling. But you do with what you can with what you have. So hence, you come from you get the fragments, and that's where you got the river song. So, and I also thought that when the Majhis were singing, probably the songs would be heard in fragments, the wind would carry them away and so on. So it's a little bit of a romantic title, but it conveyed, I think, what I was wanting to convey. So that's the title. And the cover, which was done by the amazingly talented Monon Morshed at the Daily Star, this was actually the third iteration of that cover. because Monanda came up with what I had asked him to, but I had a really clear concept of what I wanted. So I told him that I want a map of Bangladesh, Manchitrota, but tilted, in such a way that it's not immediately obvious that it's a map of Bangladesh. And since the stories are about the people of Bangladesh, ordinary people, less ordinary people, many ordinary people doing extraordinary things, just surviving what life hands out, that I wanted to incorporate the people into the picture as well. And so he came up with the idea of stick figures, basically connecting those fragments into a map of Bangladesh. And in the second iteration, it looked really good and I was quite happy with it, except that the stick figures were all kind of static. They were there was no mobility. And I said to him, the one thing I want, the one thing this country has, is a tremendous amount of vibrancy. So I want those figures to be mobile. I want there to be a sense of energy in the picture. They should be, dancing and moving and walking and whatever. And that is when he came up with this absolutely gorgeous piece of work. And if you tilt it like this, then I think it's very clear, even though it's probably reversed there, that you can see the map quite evidently. So that is the story of Fragments of River Song. And I hate to say this, but I don't have a proper title for the second collection. Or rather, I have a title, but it's not nearly as romantic sounding as this one. And I don't have a sense of the art, so I'm really kind of trying to figure that out. And we'll see where I go with that. And the tip that I promised you, from the time that I was quite young, as you may have guessed, I've always loved books. And I wanted to kind of put my stamp of ownership on all of my books. So, like many others, I used to just write my name and the date inside the book. And then I discovered, of course, as probably all of you have, that there are terrible, terrible people out there who borrow a book. And I've always been someone who's willing to lend, because when I was growing up in Dhaka, there were never enough books. There weren't, you can't imagine what it was like trying to get hold of English books at that time. Even Bangla boiyo ekhon mane tremendous surge in translations and so on. Je Teen Goenda theke shuru kore whatever else. I see really, really contemporary books being provided in translation, which is wonderful. But at that time, that was not the case. So, I lived in a continuous state of a bibliophobia, which is the fear of running out of books. And believe me, it was a very real fear. So libraries, the British Council at that time had a lot of books. Apparently they don't now, which I'm not impressed by, but it was a lifesaver for me. I remember the day I finished reading my way through the children's section, and I thought, how is that even possible? What do they mean? The books are finished, So I was generous with lending my books, and a lot of people were generous with lending theirs to me. And then I discovered that some people are not kind to the books that they borrow. So this is when I discovered the tip that I'm going to share with you now. And that is, and some of you probably already know this because it's kind of a no-brainer, but it changed my perspective on lending, which is that I write my name along the side of the book, because that you cannot cross out or tear out or do any other such wicked thing to. So it works quite well to make sure that not only do your books stay your books, but you can spot them in somebody else's bookshelf right away. So I'll end there for tonight. I hope all of you guys have a wonderful evening, and thanks for watching The Reel.